There are a lot of unanswered questions in Neon Genesis Evangelion, plot threads left unanswered or key details left to interpretation. Over the 3 decades of Eva fandom, there have been many theories. Theories so old they have been almost completely forgotten by the community at large. As some of you may know, I am working on a video all about the early Evangelion fandom. During part of my research, I managed to find various tidbits that could work well as standalone videos. This is one of them, so sit back, relax, as we take a look at old Evangelion fan theories. Spoilers, obviously. Who shot Kaji? In episode 21 of the series, we see a familiar face for the very last time. Ryoji Kaji. He says something along the lines of, "Hello, you're a bit late." And then, as you guys know, Kaji is a triple agent, working for an agency that works against an agency times 3. So literally anyone from NERV, Sailor, or somebody from the Japanese government could have shot him. Well, do we have any clues? Let's take a look at the next shot. Oh, okay. Yes, for our first theory, we're doing the seemingly correct reading of the scene and assuming that Misato shot Kaji. Now, if she shot him, why would she be crying to his voice message in this scene? Well, it could be her regretting this decision. Also, the shot right before was Misato being given a gun, so clearly this is the murder weapon being given to our killer, right? Other reasons people use to justify this theory include, and I'm not kidding here, similar sound effects. Kaji seemingly being familiar with the person about to kill him, and like I've said, the shot right afterwards showing Misato's nameplate. In a series full of betrayal, I can excuse people for thinking even for a second that Misato of all characters would do it to him. It's a character we know, so it puts our minds at ease. But it also shows cracks if you know anything about these two characters. Misato can and has killed. She has even pulled a gun on Kaji, literally a few episodes earlier, but she isn't cold enough to actually pull a trigger, even if she herself wouldn't admit as much. Sometimes knowing the characters is enough to discredit a theory. Nevertheless, some people still believe this. If you want any more confirmation that the guy who shot Kaji wasn't Misato, well, this is a question that many Japanese fans also wonder about. Kaji wanted to investigate a deeper part of NERV and learn of its secrets. He was tricked by one of his informants and then killed. It wasn't Misato or Ritsuko. This shot was also changed for the director's cut release in 2002, so yeah, that about buries this whole topic. Kaoru is a clone of Misato's dad. What? How? So you know how Rei is a clone of Shinji's mom? Like, nobody's gonna dispute that, of course. And also, Rei and Kaoru are basically opposites in every way, but also very similar at the same time. They're from Lilith and Adam, have strange hair, red eyes, and it's, well, some people think it's only fair for Misato's dad to get the same treatment as Shinji's mom. You see how ridiculous this theory is, right? Well, it's about to get even more ridiculous. This was first posited by a fanfiction writer who wanted to explore the possibility of such a thing maybe existing. The character originally had no first name, and after many suggestions, Reichu, a moderator of the Evageeks fan site, thought of Akira. Akira was the name of Kaoru's voice actor, so it made sense. It clicked instantly. But you see, this isn't what I'm here for. A year after this thread was posted, Reichu hijacked it and was outright convinced the Akira idea wasn't just a funny fanfiction thing, it was reality. The entire thread devolved into absolute chaos, as she began to peddle the most ridiculous theories possible, and people joined in. It even went international. After a while, it all died down, and many of these ideas would be used for a fanfiction Reichu would write many years later. Although Akira retained a blemish for quite some time, as of 2008 this has largely worn off, and Akira Katsuragi, as a fan-created elaboration upon Dr. Katsuragi, has an innocuous presence at EGV. He can be cited in the fandom subforums, its fanfiction spin-off, and occasionally that awful IRC channel. Although he had been largely forgotten in the meantime, he's also mentioned on a handful of Spanish Neon Genesis Evangelion pages whose owners apparently never realized that the ill-conceived Wikipedia edit was corrected years ago. Akira has patiently waited for and seen through the release of the Rebuild movies, without the mention of a canonical first name, unless his name sneaked in as an Easter egg somewhere in Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0, or is said to be revealed in a story that covers the 14-year time skip. It appears that he hasn't been assigned one. He continues to persist until a different canonical first name is finally assigned and threatens to, at long last, destroy him for good. Or perhaps will be elevated to new heights with the even less likely reveal that Akira is his canonical name. Only time will tell. God, I love Evageeks. It is so outdated in so many places and talks about stuff that happened in 2005 like it was yesterday. It's way better than sterile fandom wikis by a mile, just saying.
RMA Hybrid.
This theory is really interesting, and basically it states that the girl seen at the end of Evangelion isn't Asuka, but rather a combination of the three most important women in Shinji's life, created by his sick desires and instrumentality jargon. This originates from a single frame, the one of Asuka looking at Shinji while he's choking her. Her eyes appear to be brown or even dark red in old fan subs, plus her arm is bandaged like Ray's was that one time. But if you look at the cell for this scene, you can understand why this theory doesn't make sense. Still, it's fascinating how a theory like this was brought on thanks to shoddy video quality. This is the first of many End of Evangelion series I wanted to talk about, since it's way tamer than the other ones. For now, at least. Keel is a wandering Jew. What the hell is a wandering Jew, you may ask? Well, it's an anti-Semitic legend that describes a Jewish man who insulted or spat upon Jesus during his crucifixion, and thus was cursed to wander the earth until the second coming. So why associate Keel of all characters with this legend? He's old, but he does age. Does he have anything that relates to him being Jewish? No. Not a single aspect of his character even hints to this being a thing. He's a member of the instrumentality community, yeah, and presumably if he was immortal, he would really enjoy finally being allowed to die. And you know how Evangelion loves its religion references, from the well-known to the more obscure. But for this one, it's pretty evident how stupid this theory is. No misinterpretations here, just random nonsense. Also, coming back to Kaworu and Misato's relation, I feel like this was really the case. Misato would have a much more emotional and convoluted reaction to Kaworu, aside from obviously being suspicious of him. Unlike Shinji and Yui, Misato's father died when Misato was much older. In fact, she was around the age of the Evangelion pilots, so she would definitely pick up on the similarities between the strange, gray-haired chap and the wretched man who gave up everything to save her life. But there's no connection. Not even a hint that these two characters have a deeper relation than a government employee who is very of an alien man, dude.
Casablanca theory.
You know, I'm tired of all these weird, dumb, and definitely inaccurate theories. So let's take a look at a theory that is the opposite of everything we've seen so far. In episode 24, we get to see one of my favorite interactions in the whole series, featuring Rei and Kaworu. Kaworu says,
"You are Rei Ayanami, and you are the same as I am. How interesting that both of us have ended up in the same form as the Lilim for life on this planet."
Identify yourself.
This moment always stood out to me. When you consider both of their origins as literal spawn of the first two angels, they exist as their human analogs in the Evangelion world. Later on in the episode, when he's entering the central dogma, he searches for Adam, but ends up finding Lilith instead, and he's surprised. Or is he?
In an extra scene added in the director's cut, Kaharu talks to Seele about the finer details of his plan to enter Central Dogma. In it, he learns of a few key details that makes his confusion all the more confusing. Seele informs him of Adam's new form as part of Gendao. So does this new scene contradict the one later on in the episode? Well, this could very well have been a ploy by the angel to confuse, get this, the audience, betraying angel kind and the human instrumentality community by playing dumb, while actually saving the life of Shinji in the process.
Knowing Kaworu's motivations for being here in the first place, he must be well aware he was seeing Lilith in human form and was only pretending to be shocked as part of this act during his final moments. Maybe he actually didn't know the full story, and was only pretending to not know where Adam actually was. The series is named after a scene in Casablanca, where a character denounces a character for gambling while collecting his gambling winnings. I will say, I do think this theory has a lot of merit, and I wholeheartedly believe it's true. It adds to a scene I like a lot. It's great. It was all a dream. Everything from the robots to the friends and the family to the pen to the impacts, they were all in the brain like dynamite. Real niche reference there. You wouldn't see a Charge Man Ken reference anywhere else. You see, Shinji is a very peculiar Homo sapien. He's in a mental hospital due to his advanced form of debilitating Evangelionitis. He hallucinates an entire anime and manages the hospital staff and people he knew as characters where bad shit happens to them and himself. And then the entire world ends. Meaning, he hallucinated a random woman being mentally assaulted for some reason. And also the hospital scene. And like orange juice, and like naked clones, and this thing, and that, and also this. That's pretty much it. This is like a series you get with literally any piece of media. Like, oh, what if he was in a dream? Finn was in a coma the whole time. He was dreaming about it. Caillou has cancer. Yeah, this is a very, very funny theory. Yeah, totally, dude. Totally. Like, dude, like, yeah, they confirmed it actually. It was actually him. Like, like in the interview, and Otto said, it was Kaoru who shot Kaji, actually.
Four Barons of Hell. This was a pretty strange theory that basically stated that the four Evas in Evangelion are based on characters from biblical apocrypha. Four devils are supposedly mentioned in these texts and have characteristics such as one with a large horn, one with one eye, the other who is red and has 6 eyes, and the last one who is black and has long arms. But here's the caveat. These Barons of Hell are not mentioned anywhere. Not in the Dead Sea Scrolls, not in any non-canonical Gospels, nothing. The only thing with a Baron of Hell is Doom. There's not a single piece of evidence that supports this theory. So why was it so prevalent and widespread throughout the old fandom? The rumor of the four Barons of Hell is one that has been floating around in Neon Genesis Evangelion circles for ages, before even 2000. While this rumor is supported by several Evangelion fan sites, and even Kologic papers, not only is there no evidence of the appearances of the Evangelions being based on these creatures, there is also no evidence that they were ever part of any religious texts, especially Judeo-Christian ones. A quick Google search will lead you to endless Evangelion and Doom websites, but no religious ones. So where did the idea of the Barons come from? And if not that Barons, what are the Evangelions based on? Lost, a member of AnimeBoards.com, makes a suggestion that the Barons of Hell came from Inferno, Dante Alighieri's classic novel about a journey to hell. However, a full scan of Inferno gives no mention of the words Barons of Hell, nor does looking for a description of the Barons lead to anything. Inferno is out. A common mistake that the four Barons of Hell are the same as the Bible's four horsemen of the apocalypse leads to several mistaken references to the Bible's revelation. However, the horsemen don't fit the descriptions of the Barons at all, and can be eliminated as well, including the Apocrypha, as searched in by AnimeBoard.com's Baragon21. Shinchan 911 provides more of a hint at the origins of the Barons of Hell, but can't provide any definite proof. Taken from the four elder gods of Babylon, their names are Anu, the god of heaven, Enlil, the god of air, Ki, also known as Nintu, goddess of earth, and Enki, god of water. They're called the four creating gods, because apparently all gods came from them. And as I said before, Judeo-Christianity turned these four creating gods into the four Barons of Hell, apparently. Shinchan locks out the four creating gods with his next statement, but after intense research, I found no trace of anything about them having 4 eyes or a horn or any description whatsoever. It's now become widely believed that the Barons of Hell don't exist in any religious text, and that the code is a hoax by an Evangelion fan. But if this is the case, where did Evangelion get its color scheme and shapes and such? One answer comes from mecha designer Ikuto Yamashita, who writes, "So why did Evangelion wind up with that shape? I figured that from now on, I will hear that question countless times. The director instructed me to make the image of a demon, a giant just barely under the control of mankind. I get the feeling I've seen that correlation before. The image I had for the design concept was the fairy tale Gulliver's Travels. Enormous power restrained. And I wonder if what I came up with was what the director was driving at, or was I simply some unprepossessing unknown leading a charmed existence? What I came up with was a giant that looked like a relief on a wall. To achieve my selfish desire, I happily discarded the efficiency and feeling of giant size that you can guess by sight alone." Another answer, the best in my opinion, comes directly from the creator, director, and mastermind behind Neon Genesis Evangelion, Hideaki Anno himself. In an interview with Ariel Magazine's Almost Long, he says, "There's a monster in Japan called the Oni. It has 2 horns sticking out of its head, and the overall image of the Eva is based on that. I also wanted to give the impression that beneath this robot monster image is not so much a robot, but a giant human. The main design influences with the Evangelions are the Japanese demons Oni, and not at all the alleged 4 Barons of Hell. So as you can see, this is one of the more interesting old theories to come out of Evangelion. It's actually one of the oldest fan theories in existence, if that Google Answers form is anything to go by. I think if this were the case, this would be pretty cool, but no, it's not. There's no evidence, it's just a very, very random factoid." Gendo's silent words. This is something that has been debated for literal decades now. We have never been able to reach a definitive conclusion with this. Now, some people say this silence was an error, like his mic cut off, But no, the silence isn't some error, there actually is a silence in the script. So, what was the mysterious line exactly? What could it be, I wonder? Ritsuko and Gendo's relationship is one of the more low-key things in Evangelion. Ritsuko's mother was also infatuated with him, but ended up spiraling pretty severely after learning that Gendo was only loving her as a form of escape, as a replacement, a doll even. Ritsuko was aware of this, and yet still found herself returning to the man who ruined everything, the man who tore her family to shreds for a clone that is implied to be here not just as a daughter figure, but as the real deal, a ticket for him to be with his lifelong muse. Ritsuko near the end of Evangelion is like a lost child, asking her mother for help in the most dire situations, until finally taking matters into her own hands, or she thinks. In a last-ditch attempt to save the world and cancel instrumentality, she plans a self-destruction of the Magi. That would, if triggered, engulf the entire facility in a fiery blaze, a suicide, assisted by her mother. But the system refuses. Casper, Naoko's womanhood, disobeys the order, staying loyal to the same man who called her an old hag behind her back all those years ago. Ritsuko is broken. So what was the line? The line that we never got to hear? Well, this movie often calls back to or forward to many moments, some not so solely. A theory I subscribe to makes the silent words, "I needed you," based on the words LCL Ritsuko types in the instrumentality segment. It's a line that hurts. We know who this man is, what he is capable of, but he did to so many people around him. A hurt so deep, it grew outward, like the branches of a tree reaching out. And she knows that. She can't accept the bastard for lying to her face as a last goodbye, when she knows for a fact he did not. He didn't need her. He never did. She was just as disposable as anyone other than Yui in his life. And the cat dies. True love the seeds. This is a kinda half theory, half fact. But anyways, this is a very interesting theory that explains why Lilin are the predominant form of life on Earth. As most of you probably know, Adam's offspring are angels, Lilith's offspring are Lilin. And one day they battled to the death, to see which one would come out on top. Lilith won, and thus Lilin spread far and wide. Her spear would be skewered in the remains of Adam, who would be excavated right before Second Impact. This is where details sorta end. I wish I could talk more about it, but these details actually come from a PS2 game called Neon Genesis Evangelion 2. This game may seem like a non-canonical source, but it's kind of in a weird position because the details of all of these facts are actually in a hidden file segment that was added in the game and was pretty hyped. They were all gathered from interviews by its staff, with the creators, voice actors, etc. You may say, well, technically this may not be true considering they are working off interviews. I've heard the interviews were quite extensive, so who can say really? It's not made by Gainax, but it's certainly a bit above Rei Ayanami Raising Project in terms of canonicity. Unit 0's Soul. As we all know, Unit 1 and Unit 2 contain the souls of Shinji and Asuka's mother respectively, Yui and Kyoko, and Unit 3 presumably contains Toji's mom's essence as well. Considering Shinji's entire class are capable of being Evangelion pilots, it's safe to say every single one of their mothers are fucking dead. Anyways, Nerve has many mom souls just lying around, ready to be put in Evangelions. So here's the question. What is Unit 0's soul? Think about it. It's Rei's unit after all, and Rei is literally a clone, so who could possibly be in there? Well, we could easily rule out Yui since, So that leaves us with 3 options. 3 very interesting options. Let's take a look at all of them, shall we? Option 1. It has no soul. Unit 0 is the most unpredictable unit. It goes berserk more than once on screen, and the compatibility is all over the place. However, from literally everything we know about how Evangelion souls work, this is definitely not true. And besides, if it really didn't have a soul, would Shinji have those weird visions? I don't think so. Option 2. It's Naoko. This theory is absolutely mind-boggling. No wonder this used to be so popular. Anyways, I would like to start us off by saying Naoko's soul inhabiting Unit 0 makes no sense. Naoko was absolutely shook by the mere existence of Rei, and she even did that to her. So why would Gendo just put her soul in the unit anyways? They have no relation. They're literally not even connected by blood. Yui would make more sense than this. Gendo was one sick man, but surely he wouldn't put Rei in the unit that contains the soul of the woman who f***ing killed her. This here existed because seemingly Unit 0 attacks Gendo and Rei in her berserk states. However, this would still not explain why Rei was able to sync up with her in the first place. If Naoko's soul was actually in the unit, I feel like the unit would be punching itself every single second. I feel like it would actually take Rei out of the unit and throw it like a goddamn frisbee. Look, Naoko's souls are already in the fucking computers. Let the poor woman rest, please. Option 3. It's Rei 1. It's Rei. Rei's unit has Rei. That's why they connect in it. Okay, being serious for a second, this is the theory I and many others buy for a very good reason. Rei 1 is like the closest thing to an actual relative Rei has. I mean, it's literally her, so Rei 1 died right before Unit 0 went into production, so it only makes sense for her to be in there. There's also some very neat hints throughout the series that kinda give this away, such as Unit 0's POV during one of its berserk moments. Looky here, there's Ritsuko with brown hair? How silly, an animation error. Or is it? This could genuinely be how the soul inside Unit 0 sees Ritsuko, as literally just her mother and nobody else. And in the eyes of Rei 1, her killer. And so it fights back. It wants revenge. Ritsuko herself says as much.
Unit 0 wanted to attack me. That's got to be it.
The unit was targeting her, not Gendo or Rei. Do you know this vision Shinji sees when he's in Unit 0? And like Rei is like bulbous head? Well, apparently, in the storyboard for episode 25, when this head appears again, it's called Rei 1. I mean, yeah, that pretty much covers it actually. That's like basically fact. What does end of Evangelion even mean? One more theory, one more theory, or in this case theories, are the ones regarding the mysterious last scene of End of Evangelion. At the end of it all, after instrumentality is undone, we see Shinji rise up from the Sea of Souls, and it seems like a lot of time has passed. We see large wooden beams, a rusty cross from Misato is pinned to one of them, grave markings perhaps. Okay, the script actually does refer to these as grave markings. Anyways, we cut to the two protagonists lying next to each other. You know how the rest of the scene goes by now. After all the pain and all the suffering, the series ends with tears. This is where Evangelion as a franchise ended for a good 10 years or so. So naturally there were theories. Why were they the only two survivors? How long did it take for Shinji to emerge? That cross looks pretty old. Why does Asuka have bandages everywhere? Well, I mean, how did she get them? One of the most prevalent theories, and something a few people still subscribe to, is Asuka and Shinji directly representing Adam and Eve, sent as man and woman to repopulate the earth or something. This theory falls apart when you watch the movie and realize literally anyone can come back to life when they want to, so this isn't quite Adam and Eve. Asuka and Shinji won't have a billion offspring to repopulate the earth. It'd be surprising if they did anything with each other again, but still you never know. Asuka went through the ringer, emotionally and physically violated until nothing remained, and yet she found a will in herself to continue living, to keep this physical form. But Shinji doesn't want that. She heard him. No, she is the problem, and thus she must go away. She must die. But still, Asuka gives one last attempt at escape. This is not affection in the slightest. It is a clear-cut self-defense mechanism. In the end, they both kept on, despite it all. They knew of each other's deepest, darkest secrets. And yet, here they are, on the beach. How disgusting indeed. The final scene, in all 13 hours of the original Evangelion continuity, continues to puzzle even the most keen-eyed viewers. Is there a light, or is there just pitch-black darkness at the end? It's up to you, really. On February 14th, 2005, Valentine's Day, at 6:36 p.m., Evageeks forum user ThatDude began a thread entitled, "Are we overanalyzing things?" He began by saying, "I get the feeling a lot around here that people tend to look at Eva too closely. They search every frame of animation for new details and hidden meaning. Now, I understand that there's a lot of I hope this is the correct word, subtext in this show, But I just can't believe that Anno made the damn show so packed with hidden meaning that you need to go to lengths like this to get it. Anno was trying to say something with Eva. In my honest opinion, you do not in general try to transmit a message to people that you want them to understand by filling it with so much hidden meaning that you need to be a Bible scholar / anime nut / psychologist in order to understand. More often than not, a writer writes to be understood. Anno was no different with Eva. He was telling his story and wanted people to know the depths of his despair and his feelings of being unable to connect with people. I'm sure he didn't mean for people to look at Eva under a microscope. I think we at times stare so closely at the picture looking for meaning in every brushstroke that this picture gets lost, even though it's easier to see than the strokes. What do you people think? Why did they call it the oven when thus began a discussion on certain topics where people argued over if this was actually the case, giving examples and making their case known. Hundreds of posts later, the thread ended pretty prematurely. Near the end of all this, forum user Oblivious put it all fairly nicely. Even if we are, so what? Everyone should have the freedom to do whatever they like, provided they do not harm others. Some people like to cook, some like to swim, some people like to overanalyze Evangelion. I say we just let them choose what they want to believe in. Why is there a need to stop this? If they find the sport entertaining, we do not have to rain on their fun, do we? If you are afraid of being confused, you are simply being too lazy to take a stand on what you believe. Just let them get on with their lives. Jeez. Took the words right out of my mouth, thank you. Anyways, theories are what keeps fandoms alive. Without them, a fandom would basically die. It's fan culture at its purest form. And I think it's beautiful, really. Even if some of these theories were wrong or some of them were right, I think we can all appreciate them. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in 2026. That's crazy. I'll actually see you at a sooner date, not 2026. I'm not that crazy. Anyways, love you guys.